In 1905, the Rock Island Arsenal Museum started with a number of boxes sent from General Crozier himself for documentation purposes. But in the last 80 years, the Rock Island Arsenal Museum has not seen an update. In fact, over 80 years, since 1938. But in 2018, they brought on new director Patrick Alley, no stranger to museum renovation or Army museum installations, to renovate the Rock Island Arsenal Museum, known for being one of the bastion small arms collections of the United States. It was slated to originally close in March 2021. Pandemic closed a little early, and the result, 3 years and $2 million later, is the museum behind us, the new, totally renovated Rock Island Arsenal Museum. And Rock Island Auction Company gets to take one of the very first looks inside this very exciting development of not only what has happened in small arms, but on the island itself in its centuries of service to the United States. So our first look inside the museum, and it is completely redone. This $2 million renovation has really put in some fantastic work. And the first exhibit we're going to show you today is the first small arm made here on Rock Island Arsenal. In fact, I believe in this very building that has, of course, since been repurposed. And the first arm manufactured here at Rock Island Arsenal is right behind me. And that is a Springfield 1903, and it's not just any Springfield 1903. That is Springfield 1903 serial number 1. Underneath it is machinery that they would use to bore the barrels, and the belts used to bore the barrels, because they still have so much of that stuff here. These little accessories, these little parts of history, little molds used to manufacture, little parts of machinery used to carve barrels, it's all still here. So we all love guns and how fascinating the small arms are, but it's the little accessories in the contextual history around it that make it fascinating. So you think a 1903 serial number 1 is as good as it gets at the stop in this little section, and I'm here to tell you it's not, because to my left is an experimental model 1902 Springfield, manufactured right here at Rock Island Arsenal. And immediately next to it, one of the first of 5 tool shop production models of the 1903. So 2 prototypes or developmental stages, followed by serial number 1 with the 1905 inspection stamp. And in case you wanted to know what the inspector looked like, oh, there he is. It's a photograph of Conrad Nelson right next to it. So all the context is here, the small parts are here, and there's still phenomenal world-class small arms right here at the new Rock Island Arsenal Museum. The next exhibit, far in the back of the museum and far from chronological from where we started off, is an M102 Howitzer. These are the type of guns for which the Arsenal is known, and we're surrounded by all sorts of artillery and field gun pieces, whether it's watercolors and conception drawings of things that never came to be, or classics like the 102, which are of course developed in the 60s, providing close support firepower. You're really surrounded by not only this progression and the development of these arms, but also their manufacture. And it's all happening right here at Rock Island Arsenal. It's quite fascinating to know what's happened in the area, and so recently, from the 60s. We were talking to the new director, and some of the people who worked on these for decades are still living in the area today. So again, the museum making not only ties to arms and armament of the United States, but also of the workers and the local folks in the area who made the place run. So right next to the artillery that we were just standing next to, we go even more modern at the museum for a piece that was developed here at the Arsenal that pretty much everybody is familiar with, and that is the Brunton Bump. Now, you probably haven't referred to it or heard it referred to as the Brunton Bump, or maybe you have, but if you've ever shot an M16A2 or newer, any modern AR platform almost, you're familiar with the Brunton Bump, or as we know it more commonly today, your brass deflector. That was developed right here on Rock Island Arsenal. There's a prototype right back there. There's the 1987 patent right above it from Mr. Loren Brunton, who developed it here at the Arsenal. And on the other side of this blue wall are even more modern creations. So the Arsenal had a hand in developing the M203 40mm underbarrel grenade launcher. There's parts of the SPEW project, the special purpose individual weapon program with flechettes and different cartridges that they were testing at the time. All that development is happening here at the Arsenal. And you think when there's a period of no major wars, maybe the production stops or slows down, and so does the development, but it's not the case. And they're here to show, like, in these interwar periods, the Rock Island Arsenal is still contributing to the national defense in so many ways. Coming back to the front of the museum, I am wonderfully surrounded by a bit of the new school and a bit of the old. And the new behind me is like 3D printed manufactured parts, up-armored Humvee sections, like very modern missions to the Rock Island Arsenal. But I'm immediately surrounded by the older missions. And I had to cover this one last, simply because of one of the items coming up in our August premiere auction, and that is one of the Lot 5 Colts, shipped to the 7th Cavalry, George Armstrong Custer, in 1874, which also had a stop from Colt to Springfield to right here on the Arsenal. So we have one of those guns. And how's it tie in with Custer? Well, after Custer's defeat at the Battle of Little Bighorn, the Army identified poor marksmanship as one of the reasons for the loss. And so 5 years later, in 1881, they're printing paper targets here at Rock Island Arsenal. I've been told by Dr. Patrick Alley that if you've been in the military and if you have ever fired at a target, a rifle target, since 1881, it was printed right here on Rock Island Arsenal. So there's a Custer tie-in to one of their oldest missions, 1881. That's before a lot of the buildings were up and running. But more important than paper and target is one of what I think is one of the highlights of the entire museum. And this is a Little Bighorn battlefield, Springfield trapdoor. It says right underneath, they've dry fired these weapons at one time, and there were an incredible 5 firearms that were revealed to be positive matches for casings found on the battlefield of Little Bighorn. In fact, they have the firing pin marks from one of the casings found compared to this gun right here. It's an exact match. So it's one of those, not just the story, you have archaeological evidence that this gun was recovered at the battlefield of Little Bighorn, and it was part of the action that day. It's a fantastic way to, if you make the loop around the museum, to end on, I think, one of the most historically significant pieces in the Rock Island Arsenal. From the area's first interactions with Native Americans to the manufacture and development of modern battle rifles, the Rock Island Arsenal Museum truly has it all, and everything in between. The wall of guns may be gone, but as someone who works around world-class firearms every day, I can tell you, if you have an interest in small arms and you come here, you will not be disappointed. You will see things that'll make your head spin. So whether you're coming to Rock Island to purchase a little bit of history or to learn about it, you better make sure Rock Island, Illinois is a stop on your map. Until next time, firearms friends, keep your powder dry.